Listen here, girl. I know you think it's a game, but it is absolutely not. Okay, this is the energy supplement from Just Move Supplements. That's right. It's damn near all gone, girl, and that's because I had to get that energy up so I can complete the workout, so I can give y'all this body, this transformation, get into it. Okay, and I'm done working out now, so that's why we're moving on to the protein shake. Oh yes, it's already in there, girl. It's already made right here. This is the mixture of the banana pudding, the chocolate cake, and the buttercream cupcake. And you really want to be fancy, you can go ahead and add that blueberry muffin if that's what you want to do, girl. But for me, it's these three right here. Okay, you put that with some almond milk, you mix it all up in honey. Okay, your muscles have gained life, new energy, agility. Get into it, okay? Just Move Supplements. Thank you very much. Hold up, Chief. Okay, don't forget about that TLC NutriBurst to get that multivitamin pocket, because we all need a little extra. And child, if you want that sea moss that go down smooth, don't come up rough, okay? Get into the TLC Nautica sea moss. Yes, get that from me. And child, if your stomach hurt and you need to move some things around so you can be free, okay, go ahead and get that ISOT down below in the description box. Get it all from me. Come on in, come on in, come on in, not come on in, not come. Sorry, y'all know I'm weird, whatever.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your girl BondyBlue. So let's go ahead. Hey everybody, what's up? It's your girl BondyBlue. Okay, follow me on Instagram and let's get into the video, right?
Wow, what's going on, everybody? Wait a minute, hold up, because I'm back. You heard me? What's going on? What's going on, y'all? I'm happy to be back on my own channel, okay, after spending a week and some change over there on Unwind with Tasha K. I had a great time. Welcome to all of you new people out there. Okay, all of the winos that came from Dasha's channel. Thank you so much for coming over here. It's nice. Listen, I might be your type of girl. Listen, you might really get into me. Okay, you might not, but you might. Okay, so just take a chance, girl, because subscribing is free. All right. Clicking on this here free content is free. Now, listen, let me let y'all know we about to get into tonight, okay? I had, stuff to do. I just got back. So, we got appointments to go to. We got stuff to do out here, girl. I had to go grocery shopping. Grocery shopping. Okay, I had to go make some groceries. I had to go and get my lashes done. Okay, like I have to go see people. I got friends that I ain't seen in a minute, girl. Like, I got to reacclimate myself to my environment. Thank you, Catherine Forehand, for becoming a member. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. Okay. Yes, if you become a member, you will also get to see my members only content. You can do that with Patreon. The link is down below. I also have my own website. You can do that, or you can be over here, girl, on YouTube. It's whatever you like to support the channel. All right. Okay. So we're getting into Nick Cannon today, girl. Oh, yes. Hold up. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Yes, girl. We're going to go ahead and get into the Nick Cannon and Dr. Cheyenne Bryant of it all. Now, listen, I know a lot of y'all want me to do a breakdown of the situation with Cam Newton in her, and I want to, but that one is super long. So what I'm thinking about doing is, if you would really, really like me to, I will go ahead and do like a part 1, part 2. I'll do a part 1 here as a public live, and I'll do a part 2 members only. Okay, listen, girl, I'm working right now on getting that members only. It's going to be in my board by the next members only. Okay, it's going to be in the board. Thank you so much, Jacque Burgess, for becoming a member. Did I say, or is it Jackie? It's Jackie. Okay, I'm sorry. Jackie. I think that's the right pronunciation. Thank you so much. I appreciate you as well. Okay. Hold up. Super chat. Thank you, Kate Jenks. Okay. Bondy, I've been waiting on your breakdown. You are my internet big sister. I love how your content makes me think and challenges my perspective. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all for coming through and supporting me. Thank you. Okay, I like to give what I can give, girl. Now, I need y'all to let me know before we get into this. How do I sound? I want to make sure the audio is good, because I was having some audio issues before I came up here. So if y'all are hearing extras, Okay, we know I have to how I talk, girl. That's how New Orleans people talk, girl. I don't know what y'all want me to do about that. Okay, you either rock with it or you don't. It either aggravates you or it don't, girl. Either relax you or it don't. Okay, in and out. So if it sounds great, we're gonna go ahead and get into it, girl. We're good. We're good. We're good. Okay, I'm so great. All right. Are y'all ready? Y'all ready? Let's go ahead and start.
The Dr. Bryant Institute.
Also, just to be clear, I'm watching this on 1.25. I do not have a full 43 minutes to sit with anybody. Anything I watch when I do a breakdown, 1.25, girl. 1.25.
And I honestly, I've never had more reverence for an individual in this setting, not only because she's truly a professional, kind of walks the walk and talks the talk, but she reads me, she puts me in my place and talks to me in a way that I receive it, because she has over 17 years in her profession as a therapist and an expert in psychology, but also keeps it real. She ain't here cussing, calling, referring to, she's saying all the words. Let's just say that. And this is probably our third session. And I honestly want to have the opportunity. Welcome back.
Yeah, definitely. I'm happy to be back.
No doubt. I'm excited to talk about you. I mean, we generalized, conversations about, the Black woman in whole. We even talked a lot about, Black men. Specifically, we kind of dove into my life. But for those who may or may not know who you are and where you come from, I want to give you the opportunity to tell a little bit about yourself and share your story and your journey. First and foremost, where do you come from?
I come from San Pedro, which is a community in Los Angeles, small city, small town, product of two teenage parents. They had me at 16 and 17. The cool thing is, though, right? The cool thing is they were high school sweethearts, and they didn't get pregnant on accident. I love this small story. They actually planned me walking home from school. Of course, they're broke kids, and said, let's go make a baby. We're in love. Right. Went and got a motel, couldn't afford a hotel, literally. So I was conceived in a motel. So, I got it naturally and everything. I'm back.
Hilarious.
No, but it had me in a motel. So planned me, but obviously we're teenagers. And, there you have it. And grandparents stepped in and raised me because they were teenagers.
Same story. Except for I wasn't planned. I don't think I went to my dad's high school graduation. So it's like, but again, like my dad was, due to his, had some street ties, doing some things that gave his life to the Lord. And even in that process, trying to do the right thing and got a young lady pregnant, and then he went on to go further his ministry and go to college and get out the hood to North Carolina.
Look at that.
My mom went and worked her ass off and was a single mom, but my father's mother was the one who actually kind of stepped up and was the matriarch for us all.
My mom's mother stepped up and raised all of us. And my dad, my product of a street guy. Yeah. He's the founder of one of the biggest, I don't want to say, but biggest gangs here in LA. Big organizations.
Yeah. Community
organizations. And so I am literally like the epitome of the product of a street guy. When I say epitome, like grew up with my dad being one of the biggest drug dealers and being street. There was nothing not street about him. To the point where even coming home, I couldn't go inside the house until he checked the whole house with his pistol and came back outside and said, baby, it's clear. I couldn't have a key to our house because I couldn't be there alone in case drug deal or something went bad. I couldn't be found there alone where, but I knew where the safe was. I knew where the stuff was. I knew the safe code. He's like, if they come, you give it to them. So like a movie.
And that also breeds a super hyper aware child, somebody that's always on their P's and Q's, probably to the point of stressing herself out. You get a double-edged sword with that. I grew up in a similar manner, not with no drug dealing daddy, but just in a way of having to be hyper vigilant in order to protect myself, in order to, retain safety. There is a hyper vigilance that starts to take place. And I feel like it makes you impressive when you get older, because it does make you like cross your T's and dot your I's for the most part, which is how you become an impressive young woman or older woman, whatever. How you become impressive as a woman being hyper vigilant is growing up in these very toxic situations where people are teaching you to have to be in fear.
Dad transitioned like your dad, not to ministry, but just to being a family man and being a man who owns businesses.
And yes, I did not, just ignore it. But it was like, child, what can I say about your two 16-year-old parents deciding that even while in high school with no money, they wanted to have a baby because they were in love? Is that the story that they told you? Because to me, I feel like it's more so like we saw each other, we liked each other, and we wanted to hunch. I don't know if we can believe that y'all really plan to have a baby, all for the baby to have to be raised by the grandparent. Girl, what? I know plenty teens that raise their own babies. So for you to be raised by your grandparent, it makes me feel like on some level, like, that mindset could not have been present if you knew your parents was going to be upset with you or take the child away from you in some way. Like, I don't understand what type of household you grow up in back then with no fear of getting pregnant. Like, girl, what? I don't understand. I don't know what's happening, but I didn't want to cross over it. But girl, I'm not about to argue with you about your parents. Let's press on.
Makes good money. And so best friends was a dad, kind of how you're saying with your girls, where he put me up on game, told me if you meet a man who looks, smells, thinks, has any resemblance of me, it's a no. Don't bring him home. Don't date him, run, nothing. And he's told me that, he said, baby, God makes 2-3 men, either an excellent father, horrible man, or excellent husband, horrible father, or you're blessed to get both. And he said, make sure that you get, if you have to choose one, you get the man who's a better husband than a father. Because as a woman, that'll benefit you as a woman, because a man is going to be there for their kids at the level that they love the mom. And I find that to be, you could disagree, but I find that to be very true, meaning the father usually loves that child at the level that it loves that mama. And so that's why.
And I will gratefully say, thank God that is not like my circumstance, but I also feel like my circumstance is not the norm. So like for me, my father felt like it was an extension of him being a stand-up man to take care of his children. It does not matter if he's with the mother or not. My dad was actually a single parent for a certain amount of time. Like, I think when my older siblings were teenagers, he was a single parent, because at the end of the day, this is the house they grew up in. You can leave, but they're staying here. Okay. And that was just the situation. So for me, I feel like it is often a cop out when men say shit like that, or when they act as if the children don't also belong to them. I feel like that's an extension of you not having any real pride about yourself. Because anybody that has any real pride about themselves would also pride themselves on making sure that their children are okay. Like, the fact that it is not also an extension of you for your children to be good in this world and to excel, like, it makes me feel like whatever you're presenting to us is not real. Whatever you're presenting to us about how you feel about your aesthetic, Nick Cannon, is not necessarily true. You don't really feel that good about yourself. You may feel good about your accomplishments, but you don't really feel that good about yourself. Because if you really did, you would see your children as an extension of yourself. Therefore, wanting them to be taken care of appropriately in every way, not just financially. Y'all be tripping.
Why men with multiple baby mamas? I'm not saying for you. You can kind of see where the favoritism or the time goes based on the love and respect they have for that woman. And my dad's a good father. There's 6 of us by 5 different women, and he's a good father.
Right there, when she just said that, men picking and choosing how they treat the children, depending on if they are with the mother or not, their relationship with the mother, that is how you create the broken homes. It's not that the home is innately broken because a father is absent. I don't believe that. I personally believe it's broken based on the energy inside of the home. If a single mother is able to provide to her child to a sufficient state that they don't feel in fear all the time, whether fear financially or fear of their safety, or, fear emotionally, if they don't really live in a constant state of fear and they have a single parent, that is not a broken home. But children that have to live in some type of fear of abandonment, fear of their father choosing or being better to other children than they are to them, like, that's still having those children grow up with an insecurity that they otherwise would not have if you would be responsible enough to not feel it was your duty to create all of these children in households that you can't be in on a regular basis.
Like a man of my cloth.
He's a man of your cloth.
But I would say I would just, because I definitely want to give you the opportunity to tell your story and your journey. But I would just add to that, because maybe there's some context there. I personally feel.
And this right here is why community is important. It's why having good relationships with your good friends is important. It's why having a good relationship with your sisters and your mothers and your aunts and your cousin. It's why having like good relationships with your family is important. And that's why it is not good to be in relationships with people that isolate you from your family and your community, because those are the people that are actually helping you raise a child. Even growing up in a 2-parent household, I was dropped off by my grandparents grandparents in the morning so my mom could go to work. My cousins picked me up from school and brought me to my mom's hair salon after school and, you know, kind of made sure I got something to eat and that I was always with a family member. So that's not always everybody's situation. I was blessed in order to have that. But what I'm saying is that's why it's important not to have relationships with men that really isolate you from a community that is going to help you take care of your children. And a lot of times men will do that. Women too, but y'all know what I'm saying. Nick Cannon, you know, definitely, I think, has a lot of the women he's had children with relying on other people for help because he's not there. And it's great that they have other people, but the truth of the matter is, even if you have two parents in a household, you still need other people to help you with them kids, y'all. Like, you still need other people, child.
Feel like my children come first.
Oh yeah.
So therefore, even with
my
the
dad
mother,
feels that way
yeah,
too.
even
So
with the mother's like, I
saying
gotta, and because like anyone who's dealing with me in a romantic setting have to know, like, all right, it's about the kids first and foremost, and then we can wine and dine and do all the things that we need to do to cater to your desires. But I think maybe that adds to why you said, like, if a man who's going to take care of his kid, only because to me, it's not even about, like, I could despise the mom, but that's nothing to do with the child.
Yeah.
And I think in our community, a lot of times, first of all, I've tried to be an example in that space, because we have seen men who, because I don't rock with your mama, therefore I don't rock with you.
Right.
And I think, you know, if anything, that's a sin at a different level. But I could see how you can easily fall into that, because especially if there's conflict there, and if someone's making it difficult for you to be a father, all you can do, again, going back to our past sessions, is retreat, is flee, because I'm not going to go back and forth with you because you're breaking my heart because you're not allowing me to see my child.
And I can't deal with the heartbreak, so I'm running away from the heartbreak, not really the responsibility, but the responsibility gets negated as well.
But if you're using my child as a pawn, what type of individual are you anyway?
And we don't care about the type of individual you are. If my eye's on the prize to see my child, then by all means necessary, let me run these plays.
Yeah.
And I got to sit in emotion or deal with emotions. And I just got to get my
men, that's what we got to learn. That's, I mean, we just unpack some heavy stuff right there.
Yeah, totally.
But I mean, again, in any man who
hold it, rewind. I think that's a cop-out. I think that's a cop-out when men say that, like, women are making it hard for them to be there for their kids. I feel like that's something that Nick Cannon would say, but you notice that's not something that Dwayne Wade would say. That's not something that Cam Newton would say, because they recognize that when you have financial power, you can go to a courthouse and get custody of your children if you can prove that the mother is inept in some way. The mother may be inept and she may not be, but if you have money and you can out-lawyer her ass and you can prove that you can provide a household and money, why does the child need to be with the mother if it can be with the father and be financially taken care of? That way the woman can go be destitute somewhere and the children can still have the quality of life that the father is accustomed to. His mentality is really messed up. It sounds to me like you're looking for an excuse to take the responsibility off of yourself. But in every other situation, whenever somebody is trying to best you, you'll go to war using lawyers and everything else to make sure that you can get what you want out of a situation. You did everything you could to get your damn show back from them people. Okay, so I feel like when people say shit like that, it's a cop-out. You don't want to deal with this woman because she's hurting you so bad, keeping you away from your children. That's fucking cap. That's cap. Being there for children every day on a daily basis and having to deal with their emotions, that they're the center of the show, I think it's very hard for narcissistic men. And narcissistic women too. I'm going to just say from now on, narcissistic partners. It is very hard for them to recognize that the children come first. They say that, but that's not really how they feel, because when they have to put their discomfort, like their comfort, to the back for a child, they won't do that. They'll find an excuse for why they don't have to do that.
You know, you got to take care of yourself, but still take the attempt to put your children's feelings before your own.
And I think that's why statistically, that's a big reason why the divorce rate is high, because of what you just said, people putting kids first. I beg to differ, even though my dad agrees with you too. He's just the dad. He puts us first. He don't care who walks. We come first. So he's been an excellent father, but not the best of men, just being real. Me and him had debates where I say, Daddy, I don't agree with that. He's like, I've never put a woman before you or even my mother. And I'm saying, I don't agree with that. When I have kids with my husband, we come first. Doesn't mean the kids go without, but when you have two adults who understand that we're showing learned behavior and we're teaching our kids what a healthy relationship looks like, not just for marriage, but also them. It doesn't mean that the kids don't eat and the wife and husband does. There's a hierarchy for me that goes God, my hubs, me, and then the kids.
I understand.
Okay. So the only reason I don't agree with that, I think the reason that she feels that way is because as a child in a dynamic with a father who will remove himself from a household but still put his kids first, it is at the discomfort of the women. The women feel slighted. The women feel like they don't matter when a man will put the kids first. But a lot of time, the man is not putting the kids first. He will use the kids as a scapegoat to go and be with whatever woman he wants to be with, making the other children feel away. And as a woman, I think she grows up to believe that a man has to choose the woman so that he will choose the children with the woman so that those children won't go without a father. Like she probably felt like because my dad didn't choose my mom, he really did not choose me. Whichever household he was in, that's who really got to have him. So whatever woman he chose, that's who he decided to really be with. I think because her father was a good father, but she still felt like she was at a loss in some way, she feels like there is a way to force men into responsibility of being in marriages and, you know, this whole idea of a family dynamic that everybody puts on a pedestal that I really feel like on some level is unrealistic for most people. Not unrealistic for everybody, but I do think the whole, you know, married forever to the same person, 2-parent household. We don't have outside kids with anybody. Nothing ever happens. We're all healed to the point that there's no cheating. There's no drama. I think a lot of that is unrealistic when you think about people being in long-term relationships and how things happen depending on what season you're in. Just like things happen depending on what season of life you're in. But I feel like her mindset about men choosing the woman over the children is because she felt like she was on the outside looking in. It was probably in her mind like this: it's better for my father to have not had all of us and just had me and my mom, or had these kids and their mom, than having all of us and having us have to share him in a way that he was not always just in one household, or he wasn't in my household. So I would much rather not deal with that at all and have you just be a man that is in one relationship for his entire life so he can only have kids with just that one woman. So all of those kids are in that same house with that one woman. If all of those people can stay together, then that can make sure the child is happy. And I'm telling y'all, that is not true. I'm sure she can add all of her healed shit onto it, but I absolutely feel like when she says that, that's coming from how she grew up and her father and her mother not being together anymore.
So the covenant is broken. Only for me, I'm not self-projecting. The covenant is broken when it goes the other way. Of course, if I'm married and my husband says, you know, it's only you know, one person gets to eat and it's 3 of us, I'm sure both of us are going to equally agree it's the child.
Right.
But when it comes to making sure,
a lot of the times it's not always like that. Men really do want you to put them before the kids sometimes. They have this conversation online all the time about who do you feed first, your kids or your man?
relationship is healthy, which is really the healthiness of the environment for our child. And for me, my value is only my husband comes first and I come first. And I find in my session of 17 years, Nick, there's been many more men than women who come in and say that the relationship failed. And if you look at divorce rate statistics of when divorce happens, it's after that first child. It's after, because
they should have never got married in the first place.
Probably so, but also because, you know, whoever it was, and from my experience, it has been the woman. We're not knocking women, but it's been the woman more who has placed the child first and totally dissipated the man out the relationship.
Only reason why
that is the dumbest shit I have ever heard such a smart woman say. And it is simply because those children are relying on that woman's body for life. Like he can't be first anymore. He can't be first anymore in the dynamic because the child has to come first, because the child needs somebody to hold its head up to feed it. It needs somebody to change its diaper. It needs somebody to walk it around everywhere because it can't walk for itself because it's not an adult like the man is. Y'all love to infantilize grown ass men. Putting them first means putting your children behind them. And to be honest, no really good man should ask that of you. But in some way, shape, or form, most and a lot of them do. There is a jealousy between the child's relationship with the mother and their relationship with the father. And that is because men tend to be jealous hearted when they do not work on themselves. They tend to naturally find a way to be jealous of how a woman is treating a baby. She can't treat you like a baby. You're not a baby. Once the baby can take care of itself, of course, I'm not going to have to feed a 8-year-old, a 9-year-old. So if you want to go get nookie, upstairs for 15 minutes while the baby down here, eating and looking at their little cartoon, then we can go do that. But you have to wait until we now get into that, we get into that time period when a child is old enough for that. A lot of this is not because the women put the men last. It's because the men are selfish and don't want to really be parents. They don't know what it really takes to be a parent. A lot of times women physically feel like they have to be there. Men don't have that same hold on the hard times with a child at the beginning. All men, y'all, all men, not just black men, all men. All men go through this. It's weird. They want to become fathers, but they also want their wives to treat them like children in the dynamic with their children. It's very weird.
All right, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on this, Doc.
It's okay.
It's because we're talking life.
Yeah.
These children did not ask to be here.
Right.
They are responsibilities.
100%.
As individuals, I can't put my desires and my happiness, or I shouldn't,
right,
over someone that I am responsible for. So even I'm not even talking about putting food on the table and all. I'm talking about, we're talking about mental, physical, and spiritual well-being in a household. I'm not, and again, this is pretty heavy. Because one, I grew up with it, and I'm a product of it, and I'm producing it.
Yeah.
When an adult is saying, mama got to live too. Mama need her man. Daddy gonna do his thing. I'll be back. When those mentalities are presented to a child,
that's a different mentality.
That's where abandonment issues surface, and where a child feels like I'm not good enough in that sense because they made decisions for themselves before they made decisions for me. And children pick up on that at a very early age. So I much rather say, it ain't about your mama right now. I'm rocking with you, and say that to my child as much as possible, even if that hurts mama's feelings. To me, at least, because I know that child is going to grow up with a certain level of self-worth that they didn't feel like daddy put work before me.
But what you will do, Nick, is compartmentalize and act as if you can treat the mama any old kind of way and it has no effect on the child. A lot of men like to do that shit too. So even though Nick is technically, I'm agreeing with Nick and not her in this instance. But what I feel like is what he is also tapping into is the way that a lot of the men in these situations get to punish those women by only providing for the children as if the women, or just being a headache to the women in some way. Like they'll be there for the child, but they'll do it in a way that stresses the woman out. And anybody that has dealt with a man who like penny pinches about everything they do for the child, they want you to, make sure you're doing your part, or, they'll like try to pick at the way you parent once y'all are no longer together, that type of shit. It definitely is a way to punish the woman if y'all are no longer in a relationship anymore. If she's not doing what you want her to do, you can use the child to punish her. So you won't help her. You'll make life hard for her. And then that way she won't be as good as she needs to be for your child. But you're not thinking about it like that. You thinking I'm here for the child and the child only. I don't have to be there for you. You're not my responsibility. The child is my responsibility. Yeah, well, at a very young age, the children are emotionally connected to the mother. I know a lot of people but in most situations, I'm just saying, the child's emotions are attached to the mother's emotions. Y'all may not want to believe this, but that's usually the case. If the mother is feeling hurt, if the mother is depressed, the child is going to feel that. And they don't just feel it like it's separate from themselves. They feel it like it's their own feelings, like it's their own emotions. So a lot of men are always trying to find a way to act as if their way of handling it is the better way, but they're still essentially doing the same thing, compartmentalizing. So whatever good deeds they're doing can make them look like a good parent and not a good partner or a good co-parent, because that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're good to the woman. It only matters if you're good to the child. But that's not healthy either.
Daddy put women before me, daddy put whatever before me. If I can instill anything into my own children, is that you are my number one priority. Even all that I do is for you. Every dollar that I make is going to you. So again, I'm pretty sure people in the comments going to debate, have different things. Like, we all have different experiences, but every time I see an adult put their happiness.
But you're describing more of an adult saying, I'm gonna do me at the expense of you.
Even in a marriage.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Even in a marriage, but we're not talking about the level of I'm gonna do me at the expense of your needs. I'm gonna do me for my pleasures.
Because we do that as humans.
But a healthy family dynamic takes balance. And it's very unhealthy for a child to feel like they are number one above authority. Because what happens is they grow up to then disrespect authority, which we entitle, and they grow up with this narcissistic type of personality, even if they're not diagnosed with it. And then you have
spoiled brats.
And then you have these kids who don't respect when law enforcement pulls them over. We have an issue. They're going to school and these teachers can't even get them to sit still enough because they're so used to being number one and things going their way. No. Listen, the first place a child should get their feelings hurt by hearing no, or the first place a child should see that you are not always number one is circumstantial, should be at home, because life is going to teach you that you are not always going to be the butter cake of everybody's dessert.
So what we will say is that things should be handled on a case-by-case basis. A man should not always come first, and the children should not always come first. What to me is most important in the moment, what is needed the most in the moment, is where we should be at with it. Because there are women that are in marriages that will put their husband first at the expense of their children. It happens every day, B. And what it teaches the children to do is to put themselves last above other people. I'm just saying, that's what it teaches.
I'm sorry. But what I'm saying, then what that does is that creates that emptiness that I want to poke at you again, that emptiness and that sense of inadequacy within you because you were groomed in a certain way that life can't maintain. And so what happens is you're number one and you're the golden child and all these things. It happens with athletes. Then you go into the real world after you retire and everything shatters. Now you got depression, your suicidal ideation.
But they still accomplish things that most people will never accomplish and experience great experience because we told them how great they were from the beginning. We instilled in them that we're going to support you all the way along your ride so you can not only reach the levels that you want, so you can.
But, and here's where that shit comes in. Like, for instance, when the mama says he is being disrespectful, not doing this. So I feel like maybe he shouldn't be able to do that thing that you feel like is going to make him successful simply for, to take him out of it because he doing too much. He needs to sit his ass down somewhere until he can value everything that he has going on. Whatever the punishment may be, he can't have this game. Whatever the punishment is, the father will then come in and usurp what the mama said. What this ends up doing is making the child feel like they don't have to respect the mother, first of all, and that they will then lie to one parent when it comes to the other. That's another thing. Creating is still dysfunction.
Reach back and get the rest of the family.
We will support you along your ride. That does not mean that kid doesn't understand balance, that there's a thing called boundaries that our community doesn't seem to have, probably because of that dynamic. The boundary goes, baby, we've been at your football game, your soccer game, your ballerina game.
We don't have boundaries because of slavery. I know people don't like to hear that. They think whenever people say, because of slavery, they just tune it out because they can't connect it. Let me connect it for you. If most of the African-American people in this country either come from this country where they were enslaved, another country where they were enslaved, or their people were enslaved at one point or another. What this teaches to people is that you are property. You don't have boundaries. You can't tell somebody not to touch you. You can't tell somebody not to have sex with you. You weren't human. You can't tell people like what you want, how you want to look, how you want to smell. You can't even do what you want to do with your hair. You don't have any choices in what happens with your life. That type of conditioning over hundreds of years, and then you add it to the reason why they did it, our appearance, what we look like, our socioeconomic status. You then start to actually internalize being nothing, having no choices, being subhuman, and adding it to your blackness, your womanness, whatever. Whatever they've told you is the reason why it's okay for you to be treated this way, you've now assigned it to your identity. Do you hear me? And so then what happens when the only examples people have of parenting is a master to a child? I mean, to a master to a slave. That's how people learned how to be parents during slavery, from the aspect of these very unconventional, traumatic relationships. A master is in control of a slave, treats the slave like a child, as if the master is the parent, no matter the age. So then what happens when people actually start to have their own lives and their own families? They treat their children the way the master treated them, because their parents usually picked up on some of those same things. Because another thing that's happening is whenever people don't have power in their lives, the places that they do have power, they will allow that power to corrupt them. So if Black people don't have any power when they're out in the world, but the only people they do have power with is inside their household, inside their cabin, with their children that belong to them, that is the space they will act out their angst and their anger that they cannot act out in the places where they feel disenfranchised. So you have to understand that when it comes to this dynamic between the way parents treat their children and then the way men treat women, because it's also a parental, childlike thing that's happening with men and women. This provide, protect, and, you be protected, you rest in your feminine, you act like you're a child and be taken care of by someone who acts as if they're your parent, because they make decisions for you and you submit to their will. It is the same dynamic that we just keep placing in different in different avenues, but it's the same thing. So that's where we get that from. We get that from slavery.
Game, daddy and I all day. It's 9 o'clock. It's shutdown time. There's a boundary where it's time where this is our time, and you're teaching your child how to grow up and not be a narcissist that then needs his woman or her man to put them first over everything, which is a fairy tale and unrealistic. You're teaching them the balance between, we are a family dynamic. There's times that daddy's going to come first, there's times that mama's going to come first, and there's times that you come first. But what we do is we teach that so that it becomes more of a wholesome type of.
But that's not, I put my partner first. That's, I put who needs to be first in the moment. That's who goes first. Not I want my husband to put me first and I'm going to put my husband first.
Feel not me. And the moment you don't get me, you flee because you can't sit in your emotions of hearing no, because you got to control things to keep things the way you need it, which is called codependency. So what you describe is then creating a codependent child that says, if I'm not the center, guess what? Fuck all this, because I'm not the center.
They got to be the center.
And where did a lot of people get their Bibles from? From their slave owners that gave them an edited version of the Bible that reinforces them being enslaved. A lot of Black people don't even know that the version of the Bible they've been taught is one that was edited in order to reinforce that slavery is what a person is supposed to do in order to honor God. Be a slave. Jazzy, anybody?
It got to be the understand that in a dynamic.
We grow up to, if we don't do the work, right, and get a sense of self, we grow up to create the exact environment we learn to thrive or survive in, period. That's all we know. We can't create past what we know. That's why experience teaches, words don't. So if our child or my child or your beautiful kids are always at the center of you, and she grows up and gets a man who cannot, he's a great man, but she can't be the center, because what if he got kids like you and them kids are the center?
She need to pick better.
She may have to pick better. but just say she has someone who can't give her that.
And that is so funny for Nick Cannon to say, because he will then go on in his interview and explain how he manipulates women and pretends to be what they want until he switches it on them. And then you make her responsible for not being able to see that you weren't showing up your actual self with her. That's not her responsibility to have to figure out if you're being honest about who you're presenting to her or not. That's your responsibility.
Same treatment, and that's her norm. You have to be realistic about, or should I say aware about, what norms am I creating for my kids? And I'm saying, because listen, I'm a product of what you're saying. I was the golden child. I was the child that came first. But I had to work through a lot of BS.
Well, we all do. We all have challenges. We all come with some shit. And that's why even right now, we're discussing a very small percentage of people, because if we keep it in a stack, we all done been through some shit.
Oh yeah, all of us. Yeah.
And it only makes us stronger in that sense, to where when we know how to handle something, and adversity builds character in that sense.
That's what I was going to say. It's more important for kids to see the family dynamic, whether it's together or not.
But here's the thing. That's not always taught in our childhoods in a real way. Yes, adversity does build character, for sure. Pressure builds diamonds and all that other bullshit. But essentially, y'all just want to make it okay for your abuse to take place and you to act like it made the child better. It's the same thing as when a drug addict tells their child, years later that, oh, if I wasn't addicted to drugs, you wouldn't have went ahead and been successful like you are. Like, the fuck? You're crazy. Like, that's very narcissistic of you to think that the fact that I made it in spite of you means I made it because of you. Adversity builds trauma. Yes, it does. And adversity does not have to show up like abuse. Adversity is, I was doing something, it was hard, so I had to push myself to keep trying. That's adversity. That's not the same thing as what I feel like is telling people to deal with abuse, deal with being mistreated so that you can then build some type of character. You also build a fucking bridge between you and everybody around you, which makes it hard for you in adult life when you actually are able to dictate your life in a way that you didn't when you were a child. But the pain and fear that you had when you were a child is still there. It's still there. You still feel it, and you're still acting out and choosing and picking and all of that in the ways that you felt the pain as a child. That's what we do. That's why you have to figure it out and heal it. So when people just say shit like, oh, it builds adversity, yeah, but that also leaves no responsibility to dig it up and heal it so that it doesn't continue to be something that burdens us, because these things don't just make us better, they also burden us.
Process through things that may be uncomfortable for them as well, and get to a resolve collectively, than it is for them to be blinded with the fairy tale perspective or perception that's going to form that I'm always number one, or I'm using number one. And so that's kind of how life is going to life with me, because that kid won't know how to process the reality of what life does. Even when you reach the pinnacle of life and you get titles and success and all that, look, that uphill climb is a mug, boy. And
a white woman had to explain that to me one time, y'all. And she was so soft with me when she said it. My vocal coach said to me one time, I don't think you have to be abused in order to be disciplined, Brittany. It was the way she said it to me that just made me hear it. And it has stayed with me. And it was one of those things that started to unwind my mind from the belief that the abuse I had was discipline, that it was necessary. It wasn't. It was not. But it's what happened. And people will make you feel like going through those types of things and being hypervigilant because of abuse is what now makes you so good. But you could have still taught me discipline without scaring the shit out of me all the time. I'm just saying.
That uphill climb will show you what you came from or what you built. And also it'll show you what environment you were put. I came from a very adverse environment. So that's why I was able to catapult, because I didn't know where I was running to. I knew I was running from though. So I put them track shoes on. They're still on. You may see heels today, but them track shoes are never unlaced because I'm still running from something. Right. And I just happened to run into a lot of amazing opportunities and things and people and blessings and work and healing. I got blessed to run into that by default and by choice. But if a child,
it's called God's favor,
baby. But we have to be very, very, very aware. From being in my field of the norm we're creating for our babies, and of course it's better to be involved and cause whatever chaos you're going to cause than have children have daddy issues or mommy issues, meaning you're just not.
That right there is insane. Did she really say it is better to be there and cause whatever chaos you're going to cause than to cause daddy and mommy issues? Ma'am, people have these daddy and mommy issues with two parents in the household. What are you talking about? Cam Newton obviously has mommy and daddy issues based on the way he is acting out his relationships and the way he is using his parents as a way to pedestalize himself while simultaneously not providing that same life for the children that he has. Crazy, right? Crazy. Two-parent household. Still told us his mama had to go through hell. No. And that's what I'm saying, y'all. I feel like it's so fucking fake. I really do remember people not always having and you know what? That's not even true. My best friend growing up, her mom and daddy divorced when we was like 13, 14 years old. And it was a hard time for her. But you know what I remember? I remember whenever I would go to her house, her mom made good money. Her house was nice. It was light and airy in there. And it never felt like anybody was like walking on eggshells in that house. It never felt like that. It just always felt like, everybody was chilling. You did what you need to do. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll be in my room. Let me know if you need something. It was never the same vibe of, all right, you better make sure you ain't fucking up in here. You know what I'm saying? You better watch your shit. You better watch yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a difference in the energy in that. And so I'm sorry, but you're never going to make me feel like two people being in a household and being fucked up is better than one person being healthy in the household. You're never going to convince me of that. I'm sorry.
Not there at all.
But I think you're gonna have both.
Yeah, you're gonna have both.
We all got daddy issues, we all got mama issues.
But there's different levels to it, though, Nick. There's different levels to it.
But at the end of the day, because I'm not a fan of Freud's perspective, is that it all comes from some reverting back to your childhood and some because we need to stop making those excuses and blaming mama and daddy
100%.
for who we are.
100%.
You can blame mama and daddy for the cause, but you can't blame them for the effect.
There you go. Or your choices later on once you become an adult.
Once you understand, like, yo, I went through some shit, but now I'm gonna.
But that's why mental health, therapy, coaching, psychologists, seeing that, going to it. I go to one myself as a doctor. Everyone needs to be in it because it's not about us as a professional telling you your choices were right or wrong. It's about us helping you figure out the root of that choosing and the norm that you're in, and just drawing out a plan that works for where you want to be. Because a lot of people are still in the environment that they don't want to be in because that's the childhood environment they've taken with them, and they keep recreating the same pathology, and they're going crazy in that. There's lack in that because the evolution hasn't taken place. And it's not because they don't want to evolve, Nick. It's because they don't have the effective tools to do so. People who come in my session are not there saying, I always just wanted to be messed up. I don't want to evolve. No, they're saying, like, had I known this, doc, 5 years ago, I swear to God, I would have moved on.
It is a lot of things you really do not understand, and you can't necessarily connect all the time until you go through things that trigger the emotion. That's why people continue to cycle the same traumatic experiences or the same type of fucked up relationships they saw growing up, because until they learn what they need to learn, it's going to keep re-triggering them. The trigger is to help you figure out where your weak spot is. And until you figure out the weak spot, until you actually clear it out, it's not going to be cleared out. And you'll keep going through the cycle. But then another thing is that you're also being tested. Whenever you go through a cycle and you feel like, oh, I've learned from that situation, I can do better now, I can choose better now, I can be better for myself, you are then faced with another test to see if that's actually true. Life is exhausting. And a lot of it is exhausting because it feels like it is trying to teach you some lesson, and it keeps hitting you upside the head and throwing you in a maze. And you like, what the fuck? How am I supposed to figure? Okay. But once you start to figure this shit out, it then starts to present you with fucking Hunger Games tests to prove you didn't figure it out. And it's like at some point you start to wonder, okay, when is enough, like enough for real, without shutting yourself down? And that's when you learn that all of this shit is a cycle. And sometimes you're going to have to take the good with the bad. That's another part of this.
Had I had this tool, I would have moved quicker. Had I knew this is what evolution looked like, I would have jumped a long time ago. Had I known I can jump without a life jacket, but I felt safe within myself, I would have been a professional jumper.
Right.
Like, people just need to know, how do I do it? And one thing we all want to know is that we're going to be okay when we do. Everybody just wants to be okay in whatever they're doing and wherever they're going. Will I be okay?
Right.
Well, like, whether you there or you not, doc, will I be okay?
Right.
And they're only able to be okay when you teach people a sense of self, meaning who are you? How do you govern you? How do you manage, which is a better word for control, manage who you are? And how do you produce the experience you want? Because you don't create my experience. I do. I already came here with the experience I want. Right. You can't create that for me. You already came here with the experience you want. That's the self-mastery of knowing how to create that. And when you have that type of knowledge, you'll never be perfect, but you can somewhat try to create a norm for your child. But once they become adults like you and I did, they go and do what they're going to do anyways. So at that point, you've done what you can do. And if you're not in more of a polyamorous, like, relationship like you are, and you're more monogamous one-on-one, you're hoping that you put your partner first enough to where y'all still have a damn relationship, and you guys can continue to lead by example to your grown children on what a healthy relationship.
See what she said? You put your partner first enough. And I feel like, no. Hopefully you kept a healthy relationship with your partner. You centered y'all's relationship with each other enough. instead of you put your partner first. I feel like that language is so dangerous, because what people actually do when they put another person first is they don't choose themselves at the moments that they usually have to. They don't. They put the other person's feelings in place of their own. They neglect themselves. They dishonor themselves. And they teach their children to dishonor themselves for a partner. That is what happens with little girls in relationships all the time. That's why it's not always the best thing to have that concept, that mindset. Those young girls then start looking for men that they will put in front of their children.
Looks like, and it's not perfection. Another thing is this whole toxicity and dysfunctional thing, and I'm leaving this person because they're toxic. You're gonna be alone. Not you, I'm saying people. You're gonna be by your damn self, because let me explain something to you. If you get someone who's not toxic, it's because they're not human. In every relationship,
that's what I was saying in our first session.
Yes, every relationship has some level of healthy dysfunction and some level of healthy toxicity. There's no way for you and I to cleave together without doing some of this bumping. Right. It's not gonna work like that. So we have to be okay with doing this. But the only recipe to a long-term successful relationship is to never leave. To never leave. That's the only way you can get 30, 40 years. To never leave.
This is extremely dangerous. I don't agree. I don't agree at all. I don't agree. I don't agree. I don't agree. Because at the end of the day, people break up sometimes because they need to figure their own shit out on their own without another person taking on the load for them. And when they're able to go out into the world and actually take care of themselves, they sometimes can create a person that is more acceptable and easier to be with. And they can go back and get with their partner if they've worked on themselves separately. But it's insane for you to say that you're not human if you're not in a toxic relationship. That's not true. Having arguments or disagreements or not always agreeing, or somebody being a slob and somebody being hyper clean, like that is not toxic. That's not toxic. Girl, that's human. Toxicity is when people are knowingly, whether they want to, because people love to act like they're not knowingly doing shit, but they really are. They do manipulate their partner. They do talk down on their partner. They cheat on their partner. They, do things in order to emotionally manipulate the person so the person will feel like they have to do what you want them to do, versus a person honoring themselves and the other partner having to deal with the discomfort, because sometimes your partner doesn't always do something you want them to do. But I think it's so dangerous to continue to preach staying in relationships forever so that y'all will stick it out. Like, no, motherfucker, that's crazy. I feel like we have seen enough evidence of people dying in relationships and everybody hating each other at the end of the day. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
Because we're gonna go through some things, and there's gonna be a lot of things that I say, this is it. This is the non-negotiable, right? But if I really am in it to be in it forever, like from the beginning, before I meet a man, I'm saying when I commit, I'm just doing this forever. That means I'm signing up and forgiving you before you do any of the bullshit you may come with. And that's challenging, but that's what real commitment is. Commitment is I'm gonna do what I said I was gonna do, no matter how I feel. That goes back to what? Emotional intelligence.
Right.
Emotional intelligence is a nucleus to any healthy relationship. If I'm committed,
I feel like there are levels to this shit. Yes, in relationships, you are going to have to do things you don't want to do sometimes to make the other person happy or to make y'all lives easier, right? Help me around this fucking house more. I don't want to do it neither, but I damn sure don't want to do it all by myself, okay? That is not the same thing. I just feel like there are levels to these things, because I feel like a lot of times what is being asked can slowly kill a person. It can slowly kill a person to stay in long-term relationships that are unhealthy.
Admitting to you and you piss me off, I've committed to stay. So where am I going? Where am I going? Doesn't mean I can't take a break. Doesn't mean I can't take a pivot. I can't go to brunch. I can't meditate. Can I take a weekend of woosah? But that means I'm not leaving you. And as an abandoned woman, thank God I've evolved into a place of deeper than just not.
Okay, so just so we are clear about this, I am always passionate when I speak. That's who I am. None of this is about to upset me that much. Let's take a break. So, Listen, everybody, I don't know if you guys know, but Reset by Design Wellness is going to Bali, okay? We going to Bali July 1st through the 8th, 2025. This will be our third trip with Reset by Design Wellness, which is always a luxury situation. Now, the pictures you're seeing on the screen is our most recent trip we went on just this past June. We went to Phuket, Thailand, and we had an amazing time. We were in a luxury villa, okay? We had pre-planned excursions. Child, we laughed. We had a good time, child. It was amazing. Okay. We had a great time. Girl, do y'all see us? We had so much fun. I miss my girls. I'm actually excited because one of my girls is coming out here to see me this weekend. So shout out to Amanda. I can't wait to see you. Okay. Listen. We had a great time. I can't wait to go again. I think Bali is going to be amazing too. We went to Ghana last year in November. If y'all want to become a part of the Reset by Design Wellness click, okay, y'all make sure y'all go down below in the description box, click on the link and sign up to get updates about the trips. And also go to the Instagram page, follow the Instagram. All right. Okay, cool. Let's get back into it.
Not leaving you, meaning leaving the relationship, but I've also had to learn to not leave you in this emotion of distraught, because leaving you while you're in your emotion is the pit of abandonment. That's worse than me walking out and returning. I should be able to sit in this with you, upset or not upset, until our emotions do whatever they're going to do and we get back to baseline. Right. Because that is the epitome of deliverance. That's the epitome of commitment. Abandonment is, you know what? I can't deal with my emotions, so screw yours, I'm out of here. And when I feel I'm okay and I regulate it because I don't know how to do it, I'll come back. But it's still an emotional roller coaster, and abandonment is an emotional roller coaster. What I need you to do is sit with me in this until if it take a day or 2 weeks or 5 hours, don't leave me in my pain. Even if you're just my friend, no, sit with me in this. Now, if you got to go to work, that's it. You know, maybe I got to go to work. But when I get back, let's continue to process this.
But like you said, if it's an emotional intelligence scenario, at some point, if I've tried to reason with you and you're still irate, right, or you're still non-compromising, I got to let you sit in that and let you have that. And then hopefully on another occasion, we can find some resolve.
There you go. But you also have to, if it's someone you're already in a relationship with and say you have already grown and evolved into your emotional intelligence and they're just not there yet, then of course you kind of have to just wait it out, do a little deliverance, wait it out, do a little deliverance, do what's best for you. But when you are, say, a person who's single or dating, you're not already in something that has been chaotic and there's some division and you're trying to atone or get that stuff to be jailed back, as a single person, you're learned, because I've learned when I was very hostile and I'm coming with it. Like I said, we come with who we are. Don't nobody give us nothing. So when I was already ready to come with it, I met men who gave me the reason to come with it. Now that I'm in a place where I'm like, not that I'm not going there with you because I have to try. I'm just not built like that no more. Right. And I don't have the desire to do that. The men that I meet, and I'm single, but I'm dating, the men that I meet, they ain't perfect, but the conversation is more of a dialogue like this, Nick. I have literally yet, knock on wood, but I don't want to, yelled or raise my voice at a man in the past 3 years I've been dating because of not the men, but because of what I'm calibrating. And because my approach to a man is not like, I wish you would. No, it's now like.
She's absolutely right about that. I changed that about myself as well. I'm not screaming and hollering and going back and forth with anybody. At the end of the day, I do this for a living. I can't be up here screaming and hollering with you about anything because my vocal cords need to be rested and ready for me to make my money. Okay? For me to do what I need to do. All right? So definitely you have to get to a point where you're not so reactive in your relationships if you're really not trying to have a toxic situation. It really is sometimes how you handle yourself and the fights that you really don't feel like you need to have once you get to a certain point in your life. I'm not doing all that with you. That's why when we was talking about what's the little spider monkey girl that jumped on her boyfriend in public, people that get into it with their spouses in public and all of that, I'm not doing all of that with you. When I tell you I will shut it down, I don't have anything to say. I'm not having no argument with you out in public with people. I'm just not.
Listen, we can talk this out, you know what I mean? Or we don't have to, but I'm not going to do this with you. And I very much, I think you can tell by my personality, I very much stand on my square and I very much stand on business. So I don't have to emasculate you for you to know I stand on business, because more men have said, damn, you ain't no joke, by me saying, listen, do we want to have resolve right now? Because I'm not about to do this with you. And you'll see a man's whole everything. I'm shift like who the hell is she? Like, what just happened right now? Because like you said, they're not used to that.
I want to touch on that for a second because you bring up some great points, but even specifically to the single women that are watching.
Yeah, I can't stand the fact that we have now assigned a woman berating a man as emasculating him in order to make it seem as if she's doing something worse to him than he's doing to her, when he may be berating her as well. Because a lot of the times when you say a woman emasculated a man, what everybody feels like is that you just embarrassed this man and made him look so bad in front of everybody else, to the space where if another man stepped to him and tried to do something to him or whip his ass, it would be because you made him look soft. That right there is that emasculation concept. At the end of the day, if a woman is going in on somebody, she is berating them the same way a man is berating a woman. Do y'all have a word where y'all express the way a man can berate and degrade a woman verbally, and it then harden her the way y'all feel like a woman berating and degrading a man can make him softer? Because that's what y'all are basically saying. Y'all are basically saying a woman can throw her words, be verbally abusive towards a man, and that can make him soft and less of a man. And that when you berate and do the same thing to a woman, it does what? It does what? Masculate her? There's a lot of conversation now about y'all turning black women into niggas because they have to defend themselves so much and they can't rest in their feminine. But if anybody is being real, what world do you live in where you feel like you should be able to constantly rest in your feminine and not be on guard at all? What world do you live in where you feel like you can not have to be on guard because of a relationship you're in? You should always, I feel like, especially out in the world, not in your home or anything, but you should always, when you out in the world, have your guard up, because you never know what other people have planned for that day. Like, y'all know that video, that little, there's a little real trend that went around where real men can't be emasculated so easily. I feel like real men can be emasculated because essentially your manhood has gone nowhere. Your manhood has gone nowhere. The thing that makes you a man is still in between your legs, no matter what I say to you. Now, did I disrespect you? Did I embarrass you? Yes. But does that mean that if you did it to me, all of a sudden what I did to you is worse because I was able to emasculate you? That's cap. That's bullshit. It's a way to make women seem like it's so much worse when they defend themselves or they down talk a man. It's the same way that adults can down talk and embarrass children, but if children do it back, it's disrespectful. You see what I'm saying? When at the end of the day, if you think about the emotions of it, even if I am a child, I still have feelings. If you say something fucked up or mean to me, I might respond to your ass because you've hurt my feelings. You've triggered me. But if I respond to you now, I'm wrong. It's the same thing with black people and white people and racism. A white person can spit in your face and hit you. You strike them back or do anything to them. Now you going to jail for assault. So you got to just stand there and take it. There is a mentality of just take it that happens, and I don't like it.
And they see you as a strong example. They see the empowerment. They see, but I mean, at the end of the day, what would be your advice or your insight to? Because you are a single woman as well, and is the desire to get married eventually?
It is. I'm in my choosing. I said 4 or 5 months ago, I said, okay, God, I'm in my choosing stage. I'm not going to call up another wedding because the commitment in me is different.
So, and you, like you said, you had plans that did not go as
I called off 2 engagements and 2 weddings, and 2
separate times. So that's 4.
2 separate times.
Damn.
Yeah, 2 separate times.
All right. So so you know what you want. You're gonna get what you want when you want it. What is your insight and advice to finding this husband out there?
I think it's to be completely open. I think it's enough.
When he said this husband out there, there is a part of me that feel like all of these men, whenever they come into contact with the woman that they want, when that woman lets them know that their money does not mean she will want them, and that the fact that they show up as a degenerate with money makes them unattractive to her, that makes these men want to try to best the woman or prove in some way like the woman is being facetious or not honest about her standards, because it is in opposition with the fact that they think that everybody wants them because they have money and some form of fame and charisma.
Not be a stiff blade of grass. A stiff blade of grass, I say it in my book, Mental Detox, is a dying blade of grass. Meaning you have to not personalize life, but you have to live life. And you have to be okay with getting experiences without judging yourself as a woman based on what those experiences are. Whether the experience is a week or a month or a year and it doesn't work, you got to be able to give fully what you want to give and what you want to invest without feeling like you were robbed in the event it doesn't work. Because the feeling of robbery then dissipates you and your value and makes you question who you are and puts you in a doubtful space. And if we're talking about law of attraction, you can't attract high functioning from a place of low vibration. So you have to make sure that you understand that life is not doing nothing to you, it's doing it for you. It's meant to be lived and not personalized, and be okay with your experiences. And for the women who are up in age, when I say up in age, you could be in your 30s and you're not married yet and you are in your career or you're trying to figure things out. Make your self-talk question not be, why am I not married yet? Let your self-talk question and dialogue be, I'm proud of myself that I didn't choose out of despair, that I allowed myself as a woman to choose on my terms, on my time, and when I felt like it. Because when you do it like that, then it's more ought to work. So take your time and do you, and don't personalize it, because you have a lot of people who already been married a few times. That could easily be you. But for the people who have been married a few times and do have kids and they're co-parenting, I would say that number one, too, get your emotional intelligence up. If you don't have a therapist and you can't afford it, read books on it. YouTube has free videos on emotional intelligence. And the best way to implement knowledge, because knowledge is not power, the implementation of knowledge is power, is to go out there and experience it. So for like myself, I had to date and get into conflict with men so that I can use my emotional intelligence tool. And I remember when I first started trying to use it, I'm like, damn, I totally messed that up. I blew that. Like, I totally blew that, right? I didn't mean to emasculate him, but damn, I didn't mean to come off that straw. I blew that up. But now it's to the point where it's on autopilot. And I know the dialogue and I know the level of relationship I want. And then too, don't knock yourself for showing up in ways that go against your ideology. And be open to dating someone who is,
because it is the way she felt inept in her relationship with her father. I don't care what she talking about that daddy. The fact that daddy did not marry her mom, and I think he went on to marry somebody else, and she saw that child probably get to have her dad all the time. She is obsessed with having the life she feels like she did not get as a child. That's what it's all about.
Outside of your norm of what you think he should be, because what you think he should be is based on what you've already experienced. And if what you experience is what you want, baby, go back. But if not, be open to it. And let yourself be full woman, full feminine, full that. You don't, I always say I'm hybrid, meaning I'm alpha submissive, because I'm definitely alpha, but I'm definitely submissive. And I couldn't be with a man that I couldn't be submissive with. Like, if my alpha is always in prone with you, then I like submitting. I like loving on you.
You hit exactly where I want to go. So in this, because even in,
I'm trying to understand why submitting and loving on somebody is the same thing. That is not, y'all really confuse the language. And I hate that for y'all. You can love on people, you can hold space for them, and you can consider them without submitting to them. What I feel like often is what I feel like motherfuckers want to agree to is for a woman to submit to a man's will simply because the Bible said so. Even if the man is not, I feel like, smart enough, he's not disciplined enough, he's not controlled enough to be making decisions for both of us all the time. You get the situations like, the Yandy and Mendices. Mendices is over there talking about when I'll put my ring back on when the respect is implemented back in the household. They can say these things and it does not mean anything practical. It doesn't mean anything real. So when she says that, I'm like, girl, in real life, why are you telling us that you're an alpha, but also you're going to find some perfect man who's always going to make the right decision, and therefore you're going to always agree to submit to his will? That's what you're saying. And what I'm saying to y'all is that's not balanced. It is not balanced for a woman to feel like she needs to be submitting. I can agree with you. I can trust that you have strengths in a certain way, and I'm going to let you handle that because that's your list of things, and this is my list of things. So I'm going to let you do that, and you're going to let me do this. But when you talk about submitting my will to somebody, that means I don't agree to what they want me to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. No.
in the way you conduct yourself, even the intellect and the wisdom that you possess, it comes off very.
You don't submit to each other. You agree with one another. and not agreeing to disagree, but you agree to agree with each other. That's not the same thing as submitting to someone's will. When you submit, that's why I hate the fact that religion has skewed everybody's mindset about what words mean. When you submit to somebody, you are literally saying, I am not going to go along with what I want. I am going to submit my will to you. When I agree that you are the smarter person or you can handle this better, so this is something you should handle and I'm going to follow your lead on that, that is agreeing. That's agreeing. I can agree to follow you and we're collaborating. I'm not submitting my will to you, because that means I don't feel like you want me to do the right thing, but I'm going to do it anyway. Or I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it anyway. I don't think that that's how that should work. I don't think people should be in relationships they don't want to be in. And I think a lot of the times women are trying to raise men to stay in relationships that they don't want to be in. Y'all are trying to make men want to get married when men don't want to be married. Y'all are trying to guilt them into wanting something they don't want. That's what all of this be sounding like to me.
Alpha, and probably is intimidating to a lot of men. And then so either you find yourself being combative with another alpha, or you find yourself overtaking a man that can't match that energy.
I love that. I love that you said that. My last fiance was epitome of alpha, just alpha, no beta, alpha. And it actually showed me submissive sides of me that I didn't know exist, that I fell in love with. And so when you're with an alpha who's a true alpha, there is safety there. And everything about your femininity, about your submissiveness will arise, and everything about your alpha dormants naturally. And so we didn't have an alpha battle because
or how about you can trust that somebody is who they say they are, and they show themselves to be someone you can depend on. So you don't have to be hyper aware in every setting as if you are on your own, because you now have someone who you feel like is taking on some of the load for you, and you are taking on some of the load for them. So that's how you can be more relaxed in a healthy relationship with a man or a partner, is because they are giving you the safety that they're going to do what they say they're going to do. They're going to show up how you know they're supposed to show up. You can trust who they're presenting themselves to be. That is when you can feel comfortable to relax. When y'all talk about, oh, I'm submitting, or I need to be able to relax into my femininity so that I can, girl, no, that's not what that means. You should always be in your femininity. And femininity is not, oh, I'm just fragile and I don't have to do anything and I can just let a man do everything and I'm just relaxed and I'm never on guard. That is not femininity. The true definition, if we're going to say that femininity is an extension of what is presented as womanhood, then anything that women go through is not always some soft, beautiful shit. In order for you to think that women are always in a space of, you know, if they're fully in their femininity, they don't have to be on defense. That's bullshit. Female animals are always on defense, my love. They're still in their femininity because they're a feminine. And they still have to be protective of children. They still have to be defensive of their surroundings. They still have to be hyper vigilant in some ways to protect themselves and their offspring, or even sometimes their partner if it's necessary. So to me, these ideals that you're going to meet some man that is going to make you feel safe all the time so that you can relinquish control to him is not realistic. It's not smart either, because most men are going to, I feel like, allow the power in that area to corrupt them, meaning they will take advantage of the space that you allow them to. That's just the way it is. And then plus, don't nobody want you always fucking relying on them for every little thing. Like, what do y'all think resting in y'all femininity is sometimes? Because yes, when she says it, when a lot of women say it, it sounds like fragile, meek. It sounds like the way y'all view white women that pass out in high levels of heat.
Because it was something about his true alpha essence that turned me on so much that I wanted to stay in my feminine, so that he can stay in the balancing right of alpha. Because had I moved to alpha, we wouldn't have been equally yoked. Does that make sense? Either he would have had to go beta, or we would have done this. And his alphaness, because it was the first time I was with a true alpha man, was so attractive to me that from the kitchen to the bedroom, it made me wide open submissive in ways that I didn't even, I remember saying I don't want to do them things. And I started saying, when we gonna do them things again? Because I was so in my feminine. And let me say this, ladies and Nick, that one experience may have not worked, but that is what ignited my femininity in me. And from there, Nick, I've never gone back. Like every man that I calibrated has been in his alpha that has allowed me to stay in my submissiveness. Okay. Does that make sense? And so it's the law. That man was so pivotal in shifting my calibration for me that.
But you still not with him. Okay.
Even though it didn't work, that was a blessing in itself.
There it is. Okay, so as we wrap up.
But why didn't it work? See, I want to hear why it didn't work. Because once you tell me about all of this alpha, and I was resting in my femininity, I want to know why the shit didn't work out. Because I bet you it's got something to do with you trusting way too much because he was presenting something to you that looked like strength, but not really.
Get into your business just a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you're sharing a lot. You already done beat me up for session after session. So I mean, as transparent and as candid as you would like to be, you said like literally, there's been 4 times that you've almost went down the altar.
I almost went down.
Yeah. Well, taking the long walk.
I'm making that long haul.
Why hasn't it worked? And whose fault is it? Because you've been talking about accountability. You've been talking about high functioning, and you literally told me that I'm probably in my situation because the type of high functioning and low functioning people I'm choosing.
Yep.
Why hasn't it worked for you?
Because for the first few, I was low functioning and I was still in my healing journey. And so I law of attracted low functioning. And
in the first, you're saying that happened all 4 or just the first?
The first, I would say like the first 2 or 3, definitely low functioning of myself. So
when you say that, because I want you to break that down, like what were you desiring? How were you low functioning that found things that where you thought this was your match, this was your person, and then it still didn't go through because you were low functioning?
I take accountability. It was my fault because I knew all of them were not my person from the beginning.
So, and there is a person, there's one person out there for you?
I don't think there's one person. I think that there's many people that are for everyone. I think that is just
so you're type of person, you're a person that's on your frequency.
The type of person that you feel I want to do this with you forever. I think that's your person. If that happens 4 or 5 times, hey, that's amazing. You know, for me, I knew that I didn't want to do any of them forever. Not because they weren't great men. I knew subconsciously that I was choosing because they were what I needed for that season. And I, got caught up in we're here.
But you are selling that we should want to be in marriages forever, even though you know that some of these relationships are only for a season, and they also are there to help you along your journey and teach you whatever they're supposed to teach you. So that's why the concept of marriage is problematic, because it is not realistic to most people's journeys in life. That shows you people are sometime for a reason and a season, and the things that we grow to think is signifiers of a good partner based on our childhood, by the time we get to 30, 40, we find out a lot of that shit is not real, not true, or not good for us. You know what I mean? Like, so ultimately, I feel like there's a contradiction in that.
This man is amazing, faithful as hell, loves me, takes full care of me, even though I'm in my own professional field. And so I learned not to thrive, but to survive in that. And because I'm a little girl who grew up surviving and not thriving, I didn't understand what thriving was yet. And so I allowed my survival mechanism and my lack of sense of self, right, and my brokenness to choose what it needed there. And because it chose something that allowed me to stay broken, I stayed longer. Does that make sense? Because what they were feeding me, which was allowing me to be toxic, allowing me to be dysfunctional in that relationship, and even allowing me sometimes to be abusive, even if it was verbally in that relationship, without fleeing, because these men were not fleers, without fleeing, or at least.
Of course not. Of course not, because abusive men, and really a lot of men, don't ever leave. It always takes the woman, unless the man has some entitled or some like inflated sense of self. He feels like you're easily replaceable, but most men do not feel like that. If they can hold on to a woman, no matter how toxic it is, they will hold on to her if she's of value to them. And so what she's saying to me, it makes her point about staying in marriages even when you're not happy in them. It makes it make even less sense, baby. Because what if people were following this religious rhetoric you speak of, and they got married at a young age, and they were only supposed to be in a relationship with that person for a season because it was abusive? But people like you and other religious people teach them that marriage is supposed to be forever. So they try to stick it out until a nigga kills them.
Saying, hold on, you know, this is not cool. We got to figure this out. It was just, I love you. And like you were saying about these babies being number one, you can run amok and I'm going to be right here for the muck 2 or 3. That may be what we want coming from abandoned little control freaks, but that ain't what we need. And so when I had that, all it did was inflame the dysfunction that I was.
Right.
Luckily, I was able to look in the mirror and say, hold on, I'm looking at all this inflammation. I don't want this with me and my husband. I don't want this for my kids. I don't want this for me as a woman. I don't want this for my other relationships. And then when I pulled out other relationships, I ended up doing a lot of looking at myself. So over these 4 years I've been single, I have said no before the ring. I've said no at the conversation of, I would love to marry you. I didn't say no bluntly, but I said, look, that's not something I'm ready for now. Maybe we could take a little slow. But in 4 years, and I say this with all humility, I promise all humility, whatever it is that I calibrate, whatever it is in me, whatever daddy issues my father made sure I did not have, there's something about me, I'm not joking, that calibrates really good men who are ready to get married. And so this is why I say it's not their fault, because these men wasn't no infidelity. These men weren't they weren't beating on me. I attract good men, but I wasn't in the space of being ready to marry them because of other relationships, allowing me to be toxic, allowing me to be dysfunctional, caught up in, we're here, this man is amazing.
So, and there is a person, there's one person out there for you?
I don't think there's one person. I think that there's many people that are for everyone. I think that is just
so you're type of person, you're a person that's on your frequency.
It's the type of person that you feel, I want to do this with you forever. I think that's your person. If that happens 4 or 5 times, hey, that's amazing. You know, for me, I knew that I didn't want to do any of them forever. Not because they weren't great men. I knew subconsciously that I was choosing because they were what I needed for that season. And I, got caught up in, we're here. This man is amazing, faithful as hell, loves me, takes full care of me, even though I'm in my professional field. And so I learned not to thrive, but to survive in that. And because I'm a little girl who grew up surviving and not thriving, I didn't understand what thriving was yet. And so I allowed my survival mechanism and my lack of sense of self, and my brokenness to choose what it needed there. And because it chose something that allowed me to stay broken, I stayed longer. Does that make sense? Because what they were feeding me, which was allowing me to be toxic, allowing me to be dysfunctional in that relationship, and even allowing me sometimes to be abusive, even if it was verbally in that relationship without fleeing, because these men were not fleers, without fleeing or.
So what you're saying is you got good men and treated them like shit. So you need to get in a relationship with a man that's going to threaten to pop you in your mouth in order for you to act right, because you can't show a man respect in all of that if he's treating you well, and you still don't think your daddy gave you daddy issues. Okay.
At least saying, hold on, this is not cool. We got to figure this out. It was just, I love you. And like you were saying about these babies being number one, you can run amok and I'm going to be right here for the muck 2 or 3. That may be what we want coming from abandoned little control freaks, but that ain't what we need. And so when I had that, all it did was inflame the dysfunction that I was. Luckily, I was able to look in the mirror and say, hold on, I'm looking at all this inflammation. I don't want this with me and my husband. I don't want this for my kids. I don't want this for me as a woman. I don't want this for my other relationships. And then when I pulled out other relationships, I ended up doing a lot of looking at myself. So over these 4 years I've been single, I have said no before the ring. I've said no at the conversation of, I would love to marry you. I didn't say no bluntly, but I said, look, that's not something I'm ready for now. Maybe we could take a little slow. But in 4 years, and I say this with all humility, I promise all humility, whatever it is that I calibrate, whatever it is in me, whatever daddy issues my father made sure I did not have, there's something about me, I'm not joking, that calibrates really good men who are ready to get married. And so this,
you know why, y'all? Because she hasn't talked about her mom at all. It's probably because she blames her mom for her dad not staying. So this is about constantly being the woman that would have made her father stay, i.e. Lisa Ray and her daddy.
This is why I say it's not their fault, because these men wasn't no infidelity. These men weren't they weren't beating on me. I attract good men, but I wasn't in the space of being ready to marry them because I needed them to be good
too, though.
Yeah,
like you talking
but
about,
I needed them to
be
good. But I needed them to be good for me, Nick, because I needed.
Exactly, y'all. She did say at the beginning that her mom was an addict. So that tells me that because your dad wasn't an addict and he was probably more dependable, but you didn't grow up in the household with him, is what it seems like. Whatever it is, I feel like she has found a way to malign her mother and pedestalize her father. Therefore, her job, her lot in life is to not be like her mother, which means I have to be impressive, I have to do well, but also I have to be the type of woman that would keep a man.
something good to be reflected on me, if that makes sense, for my healing journey.
Right.
And so once I was able to see that, I'm able to go into, okay, this is what I know I need to do. And there's a lot of checkmating of myself. There's a lot of ways I refuse to ever show up with a man. There's a lot of alpha things that I would never say or do with a man because of me calling off and because of those men being amazing enough to stick through my BS and let me run amok. But they were, say it again with all respect, they were like buffers. And it's not in a bad way. I'm saying they were those buffers that were just sturdy oaks. And from an abandoned little girl, what do
you from the standpoint of women that really, and I'm not saying this, this is you, but she says some smart shit. But her viewpoint is from the viewpoint of a woman that is still trying to create a family dynamic based off of her own loss, which she feels like she did not have. And so she can't see the blind spot that marriage is not going to fix anything if motherfuckers is still toxic and messed up. And you believing that we have to learn who we are through our relationships can sometimes make you feel like you should stay in toxic relationships because it'll make you a better person. Like, that's what it sounds like to me. Hey, Erica. Okay, y'all know that's my boo. Hey, Erica.
What do you think we need most? We need someone who's going to be a sturdy. You never leave.
Yeah.
You never leave, no matter what I put you through. Right? No matter how toxic I am, you ain't going to leave. No matter how many times I flee, you ain't going to leave.
So then maybe, I mean, again, because there's a lot of women out there that who feel that their independence is so strong.
So it sounds like you weren't attracted to the men that was going to stay with you no matter what, but you want the women. I feel like that's what she's talking to when she say, oh, stay in these relationships no matter what. Sound like you talking to the women. You want them to stay no matter what. Because that's what you're telling yourself you should do in order for you to get the desired outcome of being the woman that your daddy would have stayed with.
That they don't need a man in their experience. So like what, again, as I tap into my fatherhood, I'm telling my daughter, like, you can have one if you want one.
That's what my dad used to tell me, baby. He gave me a ring on my ring finger at 16 and said, beautiful, whole lot of diamonds. Like, don't take it off till a man gives you a ring. Well, I've had 4 of them. But he also said, baby, you're successful, you're a powerhouse, you ain't got to marry. But I explained to him, Daddy, but I am.
So why does a strong woman want to marry?
Because it does give some completion to the completion, if that makes sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't give you completion. It gives you a false sense of self, because in our society, wives are pedestalized in comparison to girlfriends and single women and baby mothers. Wives are put at the top of a pyramid when it comes to women's roles in men's life. It's mom, actually, it's wife, mother, and then everybody else after that. Because in the Bible, it says that you got to leave and cleave. That means you put your spouse before your parent. And men, usually, the only woman in their life that they will deal with any bullshit from, they will usually go and treat every other woman terribly, because they would never do it to their mama. So they'll go and act out their angst with their mothers on the women they're in relationships with. Their mothers are the only ones that they put on a pedestal, because they feel like those women have earned that because those women took care of them. And because at some point they have formed a codependent relationship on their mothers a lot of the time, child, whatever the reason. Okay. So for me, I feel like when it comes to what she is, hold up, let me back it up, because I want to back it up and play it again.
So why does a strong woman want to marry?
Because it does give some completion to the completion.
It doesn't. It's a societal construct. It is what you tell yourself. You make yourself feel like your value is dependent upon if you are at the top of a pyramid in our society. If you are a Black woman, a lot of the times the only way you can be on top of anybody's pyramid is by being somebody's wife. Because then at least you're a wife. I have told y'all before that I felt like a lot of people would not have listened to me the way they did if I was not somebody's wife. Now, there are a lot of people, of course, now, because y'all hear how I feel about these things, that don't come to me in that way. And a lot of people don't even believe and be like, Bondi got a husband? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I can have a husband, I can have a partner, and not center him in my life as if he's the only reason I'm impressive is because I have him. And that's how a lot of people around me have always treated me. Like, oh, wow, because I had a husband. Like, fuck the fact that I'm impressive all on my own and have always been. But And as if it was hard for me to keep a nigga or something like that. Like, girl, it ain't hard for me to get or keep no nigga. What? That's not hard. I'm sorry. It's never been a struggle. But at the end of the day, I feel like it really adds a false sense of value for people. It really makes one feel like they are on a pedestal. And in reality, a lot of the times they are usually the one that's at the bottom of the pedestal cleaning it.
If that makes sense. For me, I want to birth. I want to be a mom. So it's important to me, right? But I want a family, not just kids. Otherwise, I can adopt. Obviously, I can financially afford it. But and I want that family dynamic.
You want the traditional household.
I want the traditional household. Will it look like tradition? Maybe not. Right. I think for me, being a successful woman, the biggest thing has been, and the biggest conversation with my father and I and my uncle Montel is, Shy, what if you make more than him? Are you okay with that? Because there was a time where I wasn't okay with it. And now I've gotten to a place where I do so well, you know, that I'm saying, well, if he does make a little less, but he can't,
but
he
can
can provide.
Driver and a janitor a shot.
You know, if the janitor owns a janitorial company.
Oh, see, now he got to own the whole damn company. He can't be a good janitor.
Let me say this. It doesn't matter how much more I make than him. If he can provide for us and provide a quality of life for us, I don't really give it. But I don't care.
You're the one that's doing that.
For myself.
But if you're clearly at a level where you can...
This right here is how you know that Nick Cannon does not financially provide for his baby mamas the way y'all think he does. He goes and gets with women that are hustlers and have a little bit of something on their own so that they won't have to depend on him like that. They're not on his level, but they absolutely, you know, have their own. So he feels like he does not have to do for them in that way. That's why I don't understand what is the benefit to having a child with Nick Cannon, except for the fact that having a child with him makes you famous and comes with some form of fame. And that's what I will believe about everybody but Mariah, that all of the women that have had babies with Nick Cannon are, you know, of course, children of abuse in some way, been, you know, daddy issued out or something like that. But also, damn, I forgot my point that fast. Y'all, I forgot my point. Oh yeah, those women are with him for fame, for access. Not, you know what I'm saying, not for any deep reason, because he's not providing for them much more. Like, he's not giving them a better quality of life. To me, the women. That's why I'm saying, like, I don't know what's in it for the women. The children get treated well, but the women only get to become famous. And as long as they're fucking him and only fucking him, he probably provides for them. But as soon as they go get another man, they're no longer his responsibility. So in essence, you act as if you are creating a harem. And what happens in a harem is men take care of various women they have children with. I don't know if it's predicated on if those women don't take other lovers. But essentially, to me, I feel like if you can be booking through all of these women, I don't know why the women can't have whatever type of situation they want to have. You the one that they had the baby with. You the one they almost died to continue the legacy of. But for some reason, those women are no longer entitled to be taken care of. They're no longer fucking you, right, Nick? That's why he relies on those women to have jobs and all of that. Do you hear what he's saying to her?
Take care, like, so he don't necessarily got to put, and he could be a provider and a protector
take care
without
of my man financially.
Yeah,
I don't. For me personally, I wouldn't, only because it would put me too much in an alpha space.
Y'all would be equally yoked.
And then I don't know how much my old norm would not come out. And because I know myself,
that we be
respect
searching for when we enter the house wouldn't be
when
there.
you say daddy's home, that means more than just your home and your present.
So now you just narrowed your circle so much smaller, because now you got.
And to me, that's crazy to me, that because daddy's home, the energy in the household now has to change. Girl, toxic as fuck.
You got to have a high functioning, high value.
Yes.
Like,
and let me tell you something though.
Rich ass man.
Or at least if he ain't rich, you got to be doing something that makes, I'm not saying rich, he just has to be.
Rich in spirit.
This is what I've learned. This is what I've learned. I've learned that it's not the amount of money that someone makes that creates the quality of life. Because
isn't it crazy for a man with money to be low-key trying to convince a woman not to want a man with money simply because she has money? And this is how you know these men don't want women with money. They don't want women with money. They want women that have to like compromise themselves in order to get the money or the provisions that men like Nick Cannon are offering. They don't want a woman that has her own, because then she can really be choosy. They want her to be dick addicted to some broke nigga, because then she's gonna stay with him out of loyalty and out of, trauma bond and guilt. She'll, like Monique and Sydney, you'll stay with the nigga, just because you want to prove you love him so much and all of this type of shit. You have to be beholden to them in some way, whether emotionally with your vagina or financially. That's how they feel. You can't just choose them because they are treating you well and the dynamic of the relationship feels good to you, because they're never going to be given from that space. It's always going to be them trying to figure out how to get a discount on some coochie. Is what it feels like to me. And the man that gets with a woman with money has to be able to dick her down or mind fuck her into compromising herself in order for it to be worth it. That's what he's talking about. And that same dynamic with women that don't have money that get with men with money. You have to be able to have painful anal sex like Jazzy in order to get this man with access and money. And he's still not going to pay for no maid and no cook and all of that. So you don't have to live like a middle class civilian. All you really get is rich, famous dick.
Because I have constituencies that make way less and way more than me.
Right.
And my constituents that make way more, I'm talking about astronomically more than me. Yeah. I live the same quality of life they do.
So you just want somebody with some initiative and some aspirations and
I'm
dreams.
41. So somebody who he ain't. I'm not,
is he done dreaming?
Yeah. Can
he be a younger man?
He may have to, because I want a man with no kids, because I want my own family.
You want a man with no kids?
So go down.
This nigga ain't out there. You looking for Jesus.
Do you hear that? This nigga ain't out there. She looking for Jesus because she's looking for a man with no children. There are men out there that don't have children. But see, in order for Nick Cannon to, because here's what it is. He's feeling like I'm not the top of the food chain. I'm not the top of the pyramid, because you want a man that doesn't have kids. So now you've put me under a man who doesn't have kids, and I don't like that. So now I'm going to act like what you want for yourself is asking for too much because it's not me. Ain't that some bullshit? Don't matter how much money they have, they still result to the same playbook. Try to make you lower your standards so that they can meet them. No matter how much you're supposed to be high value, you still below this woman's standards, and you still want her to lower them so that she will want a nigga like you.
Yes.
And he still ain't came back.
Please, my Jesus.
You want a single, rich,
Jesus could be
high functioning, smart.
Yes.
That nigga is not. He got
Jesus
bitches.
Could be crucified and saved and resurrected. Yes, God, bring me Jesus.
There is no single man with no kids that is rich.
Nick, I date them.
Not know.
I date them. I date them all the time.
They ain't where they at.
Baby, I date them. They're dating. We're still dating. I don't have to
look at him. He can't even keep still because it makes him so uncomfortable that this woman he's attracted to would not want him. That's why whenever niggas be talking shit to me in comments, I always am lightly tickled, because it's like, nigga, I know you want me. Like I'm the way I'm physically made up in real life. You would want me, and you can't have me, and you know it by the way I carry myself, and it upsets you. So now you have to humble me or try to make me feel bad about myself by degrading me or, talking crazy to me in these fucking comments. Because in real life, you could not have me. But funny thing, it's the same thing with the women. The women in the comments will do the same thing to me. They will degrade me because in some way I have shown up in a way that makes them feel insecure about whatever they got going on. So now they don't like me. Oh, I peeped it.
Rush into marriage because
that are single, fully single,
fully single,
just you,
fully single,
no kids,
fully single, no kids, baby, and they're younger though. They're 32, 33. They're younger.
Okay,
yes, I'm not saying they 40. They are younger.
All right. But even those dudes, come on now.
No,
you telling me those men that you talking about don't got options?
I'm sure they do, but why? I'm not concerned with options.
And so, so because as high valued as you are and as high functioning you are, they're probably that's why they got.
But I want to say that this is the thing about being high functioning and calibrating someone who's high functioning. It's very good, but you got to be ready for that, because they also come on their square as well, saying, I'm high functioning. And so I may not tolerate you when you decide if your old habits come in to run this muck.
Yeah.
So what I've learned through this is, if my old habits is something that's going to be more overtaken in the relationship, then I gotta accept a low functioning man, just like you with the low functioning woman you deal with, because he has to be able to tolerate my stuff.
Yeah.
But if I do get with a high functioning man equally yoked to me, then there is going to be a lot of awareness.
That right there is a fucking word. Do you hear me? What she just said right there is a word. When you are high functioning, you cannot be with a low functioning person. They need to be with somebody that is low functioning like them so that they can deal with their bullshit. Somebody that's high functioning is not going to deal with your bullshit. So that's why a man like Nick Cannon or like Cam will go and get with women who seem to have replaced their brains or something, like they've been lobotomized or some shit. That's how these women act. They go from being so sure of themselves and smart to acting like somebody took their brain out of their fucking head. Exactly.
Awareness I have to have, because he's also like me, not going to tolerate low functioning behavior that is abusive or disrespectful.
That's if you
see
two are
what I mean?
being at your perfection, high functioning.
But
that shit ain't always gonna happen.
But it shouldn't happen. No, it shouldn't happen. It should be we're both high functioning enough to stick through this stuff.
Yeah.
Not to not have toxicity. Remember I just said,
because an alpha male who has everything that you desire and he's young, he gonna act out of ego. He's gonna act out of certain.
100%. His emotional intelligence isn't all the way there yet. You're right.
So
you're right.
And in that you're gonna have to put up with some shit.
You're right.
And therefore,
absolutely.
I mean,
but that is why she is willing to accept toxicity in a relationship if she can get the other thing she wants. And that right there, that transactional situation is what we was talking about with the Cam and Jazzy situation. If a woman is fully in her power, meaning that she is not thirsty for marriage, she's not thirsty to create a fairy tale life for herself. She is cool with her life as she is, going throughout her life, having her experiences. If she is not thirsty for something, she is not going to dishonor herself by being in toxic relationships, having sex she doesn't want to have, having babies she doesn't want to have. She is not going to dishonor herself and put someone else before her in a way that is detrimental to herself, unless she needs to have some type of need filled. That's why I said if Jazzy was fully in her womanhood in a real way, if she was really, really like content in who she is as a woman and all of that shit like she say she is, she wouldn't be in a relationship with somebody that is asking her to dishonor herself. And she wouldn't be so willing to do it. A lot of these women act like we can't tell that you're making some type of sacrifice for this man. Yes, you are. Because if you were fully confident, if you were fully whole as a woman and a human being, you would not accept what you are accepting right now. The exchange would not seem great enough. That's why I've never been one of those women that is about, catching a man with money or being around men with money, because I know what they require and I'm not willing to give it. It doesn't mean I'm about to be with no broke nigga, but there's a difference. Men with money have a certain expectation of how you are supposed to show up and how you are supposed to act. And I'm not doing that shit. So I have always been about taking care of myself and having a partner that can take care of their self. And then we can come together and be better together. But essentially, you can take care of you and I can take care of me. That way, neither one of us should be making any decisions out of trauma or staying with each other out of need versus want.
That's you the best.
But that's where the maturity of we're going to go through some dysfunction, and it's not about the dysfunction. It's about us sticking through it to get to the promised land. The promised land comes over and over and over again. It's not one landing.
I'm not disagreeing.
When you flee and come back and you guys get to a resolve, that's the promised land. And then when it happens again, you're out the promised land. And then you're working to get back.
So that's called a relationship.
All a relationship is how do we get back to our square together and get us off of our own squares? How do we get back to this one square? That's it.
And see, even though I understand what she's saying, because in relationships, there is a sense of sometimes you're not going to always agree. Things are not going to always be going well. You're not going to always be able to be good as an individual because shit happens. And so if you're in a relationship, it's happening to both people. Relationships can sometimes struggle. Absolutely. And you work through it, you communicate, you try to be there for each other, give each other what each other needs at the moment, in the moment, whenever that is, whether that's space, whether that's affection. If you have the capacity to give it, then you give what you can, okay? In a partnership with somebody. But essentially, what she's talking about and what that reads in a lot of relationships is to have a drug addiction in the relationship. And what I mean by that is you handle your relationship like a drug addiction. A person manipulates you and treats you well. Okay, a person manipulates you and treats you well for the first year or whatever of the relationship, and then they start treating you in total opposition of that. They flip it on you. And then you are like, what the fuck? But you're still remembering the version of them you were getting before. So you allowed them to mistreat you under the hope that they will then fix it, treat you well like they did the first time, and all will be restored. But what really ends up happening is once that's the cycle, it's going to keep happening. They're going to treat you bad, then they're going to treat you good to make up for it. It's all going to be good, and then they're going to treat you bad again, then they're going to treat you good again, and then it's all going to be this cycle over and over and over again. That is how you have a drug addiction in your relationship. You have a drug type addiction to the toxic cycle of your relationship. You don't actually want to get to the good parts. What you get addicted to is the back and forth, the push and pull. It's not healthy. It's not healthy. That's not the way relationships should go. You should not always be anticipating that this cycle is going to take place. Yes, have difficult times. It's not the same thing as going through the same cycle of what can sometimes be abuse in relationships, whether it's cheating, whether it's the person emotionally, financially, or verbally abusing you. And yes, that breakup to makeup shit. Yes, that after the pain shit. And a lot of women get addicted to the cleanup. When the man, and I learned this from BDSM. People in BDSM think they be acting out some deep shit, but really they're just cycling it in a sexual way. But basically, you agree, and this is the thing. This is why it's not comparable to real abuse, because at the end of the day, a lot of times nobody's really agreeing to it. It is a manipulation and a drug-like addiction that happens, a chemical thing that happens in your brain, right? A person will take you up high, high, high. They know exactly everything you want. They give it to you, and then they purposefully at some point drop you down. Then they pick you back up. And because they had you so high up, you believe that y'all can get to a middle ground again. But that's not what's going to happen. What's actually going to happen is they're going to take you down, keep you down for a while, take you back up. You're going to be up for a little while, and they're going to take your ass back down. There is no balance. And in that is toxic and chaotic, and it does not make a person live a healthy life. It's not a healthy relationship. So I feel like when we're talking about these things, you have to be very fucking specific when you're talking about making up to break up. Because yes, sometimes people do have relationships where they might go back and forth. Arguing is not a bad thing. Confrontation is not a bad thing. It's how you handle the confrontation. But if you are having the same fucking confrontation over and over and over and over again in a cycle, it is a cycle of abuse. And the rhetoric that she is spewing on this show, I feel like is how a lot of people, a lot of women, and I'm saying women because I feel like women fall into this a little bit more, but it is how people fall into abusive relationships. It's how people can get into drug addictions. That's how drugs work, y'all. You do the drug, and it's the best high you've ever had. That's why they used to call being on dope chasing the dragon. Because you get really high that first time and it's amazing. And after that, you keep trying to chase the high. But because of the way our bodies work with drugs, you will get used to the drug. Your body will start to recognize the drug, so it won't have the same effect on you. So you'll do more and more drugs trying to reach that first high. That's what they called it, chasing the dragon. That is no different than being in a relationship with somebody. Everything's going all good, and then they flip on you, like Nick explained, and now he's being toxic. Now, y'all see, I feel like they must have cut that clip out of this video, and I'm gonna tell you why. Dr. I don't know whether she had another clip on her channel and she put it private. I can't remember. But either way, I feel like they must have edited that clip that was online out of this version, because I did not hear him say that part where he talks about flipping on women, being everything that they want him to be, going to church or mosque, doing whatever the women want him to do. And then as soon as he feels like he got them in, gotcha, bitch, he locks them in, and then he starts showing up as his toxic self. But now they're in love with him. So it's hard for them to let go. Y'all, that's the same thing as a drug addiction. It's the same physical, chemical response. So at the end of the day, y'all, when y'all see a lot of these women, and a lot of us get upset, y'all felt like, oh, see, that's why y'all don't say nothing about women in abusive relationships. Man, listen, I'm not gonna agree with that. It's a lot of y'all, when it came to that Keke Palmer situation, everybody was acting like because Keke looked like she might be back with Darius, we were all wrong and she was lying about what was happening. That's not usually the case. In abusive situations, women usually go back. They usually empathize and sympathize with their abuser. They can usually be talked down, especially if somebody can say it's what's best for the kid and they love their kid. That's another way that women are convinced to stay in abusive relationships, because in their minds, it's better for the kid to grow up with the two parents, just like she was just saying. It's better for everybody to stay in the house no matter how they tear shit up. Really? Is that what you think? Girl, you crazy as hell. You could tell, you know what I'm saying? Like, you could tell when people are still acting out of their trauma because they say shit that makes no sense when you add another perspective. When you add the perspective of the women and children that grow up in houses with abusive fathers. You really want me to feel like all the time that was the best thing for me? Not feeling safe, walking on eggshells, that was the best thing for me all of the time? So that I can have some money, but no real peace inside of my comfortable home, no peace inside my mind because it was corrupted a long time ago, just so we can have financial shit. It's still not easy. I still got to pay bills. I still got to work. So why do you feel like it's a worthy exchange to traumatize and fuck up people long term and create issues that they may not need to have simply so that you can keep two people in a household? To me, it is forced domestication. There are a lot of men out here that do not need to be in the household. They really do need to be out in the wild. Their sperm was strong enough, but their integrity was not. That's how it goes sometimes. I'm telling y'all, I have read up on tribal living prior to slavery and in tribal living in other parts of the world as well. Okay. Tribal living is sometimes better because men don't usually have the temperament for what is required in the early years of child building. Not all the time, because there are a lot of men that are good nurturers. And in tribes, there were usually tribal fathers, meaning men that specifically had the gift of being good with the kids, that were the ones that were fathers to the tribe. It did not, because nobody was doing DNA tests back then. So nobody knew who the fucking daddy was a lot of the time. It was based off of the men that showed themselves to present those qualities. Those were the fathers. But a bitch could have got pregnant by anybody. Who's ever sperm in a tribe work, child. That's who we got pregnant by. And the men that actually held the responsibility and the care, those were the ones that were considered the fathers. That's why I honestly hate that people nowadays get so caught up on biology when it comes to children and parents and all of that, because sometimes just because a nigga has strong sperm does not mean he should be a father to anybody. And just because a nigga don't have strong sperm does not mean he would not have made a better parent. So that's why for me, a lot of times, like a lot of these things that we've kind of made ourselves, feel so strongly about, in the grand scheme of things, when you take some of this shit away, it is causing more harm than good. Because in tribal communities, women have help from all of the other women, and men have a whole bunch of men to be communing with, and they have their part and their role in helping the community without always having to be in a space with a woman that might aggravate the fuck out of them in comparison to a man. A lot of these niggas prefer to be with their homeboys and with a whole bunch of other men. They find peace in that. Y'all heard Blueface say that he was in his safe space being in jail around a whole bunch of niggas. A lot of them, it's safer for them to be amongst each other. Fight it out, kill each other. The best of y'all will survive. And y'all can, stay amongst the community and do what y'all supposed to do, to stay and benefit the whole of the community. All of the women stay together. And now the women have a whole bunch of other women to help them with the kids. All of the kids can feel like they got a whole bunch of different mamas. They got a whole bunch of different women that they can go to for nurturing. I also heard in Hawaii, somebody told a story. I can't remember who it was. Erica, it might have been you. I don't even remember. But somebody was talking about in Hawaii, the way that they feel about the kids. They were all at like a dinner party. Everybody, whatever kid is closest to you, that's the child that you're responsible for. It doesn't matter if that's your biological kid. Whichever kid is closest to you, that's the child you keep your eye on. That way, everybody is responsible for the children in a way that is beneficial for the children. Because sometimes what happens is some children end up not being able to be taken care of because they're not in the vicinity. But now you can be hyper aware of your child who's all the way over here not needing any help. You know what I'm saying? So I do feel like there are a lot of other ways that family and child rearing and tribal and community can work that is beneficial, that is not predicated on nuclear family and romantic relationships that are temperamental. And the thing that people are telling y'all is that they know for a fact that these relationships are temperamental, but they're telling you to agree to stay in it no matter what. And that's the best way. Versus, no, how about we all just feel responsible for these children no matter what we doing romantically, and we do what we supposed to do by these kids no matter what we feel romantically. So instead of having a nigga online screaming into a microphone that he got off Amazon about how men don't give a fuck about the kid if they not with the mama, how about y'all do give a fuck about the kid? Because that's what you should do, because we all live in this community together. And when the children are left behind, they turn into adults that rob you and knock you over the fucking head. Nobody wants to deal with the fact that this very individualized mindset about family comes from this nuclear family shit where you're only responsible for the people in your household. That's not realistic when we all live in a community together. Outside of your house is a neighborhood. Outside of your neighborhood is a city. Outside of your city is a fucking state. Outside of your state is a country. Outside of your country is a continent. Outside of your continent is a goddamn planet. We all have to be here together. And the individualized mindset that comes with the nuclear family, I feel like it has got a lot of y'all in a chokehold, and y'all feel like that's the only way because y'all refuse to open y'all minds up to seeing things in another perspective. You don't want to see how the nuclear family is detrimental because a lot of men are not meant to be domesticated inside a household with one woman for their whole fucking life. And you can tell because a lot of them don't do it. But you refuse to take this evidence as fact that this is not what is normal and natural for us, because nobody can seem to actually do this shit unless they are oppressing themselves or putting themselves through a lot of trauma. That means we need to figure out another way, motherfucker. That don't mean we should keep trying to make the nuclear family marriage thing fit if it's obvious that that's not what's fucking working for most people, but y'all want to keep trying to make it fit. Do what you gonna do. Do what you gonna do. You know what I'm saying? Be happy at the end of the day. Be happy. That's all I want for everybody. Just be happy. Be content. Make choices that are good for you. Follow your own instincts. You know what I'm saying? Love yourself. But also, love yourself enough to choose you and do what is best for you, not in a way of being selfish and uncaring to the people around you, but in a way that does not have you dishonoring yourself for anybody else's benefit, because it is not always necessary. It's not. It's not. Okay. Now I'm done. 2-hour live. I love you guys. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I really enjoyed this live. I really do want to do the Cam Newton one. So y'all let me know if y'all want me to do that in the comments. And I would do a breakdown of Cam Newton, but I will break it up into parts. So we'll do a part 1 and then we'll do a part 2 in the members only. Okay, y'all let me know if y'all want me to do that. Like the video, subscribe to my channel, check out Reset by Design Wellness if you want to go to Bali with us next year. And follow me on Instagram, BondyBlue. Follow me on Twitter, Blue Rose Bondy. Okay, spelled just like it sounds, girl. Anyway, I love y'all. Y'all have a good rest of y'all night, and I'm gonna see y'all tomorrow. Okay, peace out.